In this lesson, we're going to be going into modeling, specifically how to model in Blender. Now, this particular lesson has been split into two parts. The first part, we'll talk about how to model, we'll workshop how to model. You're going to create your first model in Blender. And the second part, we are going to be animating that model that you have created in Blender. So be sure to check them both out. Also, please make sure to join our WhatsApp channel to access the course files for our lessons. And let's get started. In this chapter, we're dealing with modeling. And in the concept video of this chapter, I talked about the fundamental frameworks of modeling. What is a 3D object made of? It's made of vertices, edges, and faces. And those faces come together to create a mesh, a 3D mesh or a 3D shape. So we've covered all of that. And in this section, we will now be going into the software directly. And we are going to be creating this beautiful image over here. We're going to be making this model of a drink and this fancy animation based on that drink model. So let's get straight into the workshop. Okay, so welcome to Blender, and if you created a new file, this is what you should be seeing in your window in your software. So as usual, we're going to delete this, but before we delete this, I'm going to just introduce you to what we're going to be doing throughout. And now, if you look at these objects, I told you about that an object is made up of vertices, faces, and edges. So your question now is, okay, where is the vertex, face, and edges over here in this object? And the answer is, if you come here, Blender has something called object mode. If you click on this, you will see other modes of interacting with this object. So if you change this from object mode to edit mode, as you can see some of the vertex sign here. If you click edit mode, all of a sudden you can edit this object. It has moved to, it has kind of like allowed you to go into the object and edit the things that make up the object, which is the vertex. This is the vertex over here, this dot, this connection between three lines. And you can also edit the edge. Two vertices make an edge, and then four vertices together create a face. So this is a face, this is an edge, and this is a vertex. If you just want, so right now we're in vertex select mode. If you just want to select the edge only, if you come up here, this is the select mode. Right now it's on vertex select. You can see this dot here. If you click on edge select, the vertex will disappear, but you'll be able to select the edges. So you don't need to select two vertices to select an edge. You just select the edges directly. Then if you come to face select mode over here, you can now select the faces directly. So you don't need to select, if you are in edge select mode and you want to select a face, you're going to have to select 1, 2, 3, 4 edges to create the face. So when these edges, so wherever these edges meet together, is called an edge loop. So for now, we're going to go into this when we start creating our objects. You will learn more about that. So, but for now, just know that every single 3D object is made up of vertices, edges, and faces. And those faces, this is a face, those faces right now connected to each other. This face connected to this face, and this face connected to this face, which is connected to this face, and this face, and this face. These faces connected together creates a 3D object or a 3D mesh. So that is the basic concept that you need to know, and that's what we're going to be doing, or that's what we're going to be working with all through this session. So let's delete this as usual. If I just select everything and delete A to select everything, in case you don't know that, and delete everything. And now what we're going to add is, come again, Shift A, or you can come to Objects, Add over here. We're going to add a cylinder. So the cylinder is the closest object, the closest Blender object that is most similar to the can that we want to create, but obviously it's not entirely the same. So if we go to object mode, so another way of going to one thing that I would like you to do to make your life easier rather than coming here to click edit mode, come to your edits in your file menu, in your menu bar here, come to edits, preferences, come to add-ons over here. Just follow me, don't worry too much about what's going on. Search for pie menus. So once you see this, so Blender has, so what this is, just first of all check it, yeah, then close. So what this is, Blender has a lot of things, that has a lot of features, but sometimes in order to make sure that the software is not too slow or bogging down your computer, it kind of disables them out of the box so that nothing goes wrong. You just have the core experience of Blender that the developers want you to have. But occasionally we will come here. You will be coming here as a Blender animator to enable some things. For example, if you come to this add mesh, there are some extra objects over here that you can add. You can add landscape objects. You can add many other things here. So once you enable this, you'll see that when you press Shift A, come to mesh, you notice extra objects is here, landscape is here. But if we disable this and we press Shift A, come to mesh, landscape has disappeared. So yeah, so if you see, you can go through this in your free time, find anything that you find interesting and just enable them. So what we enabled was, again, the pie menus feature. So what does pie menus do? First of all, save this. Okay, what does pie menus do? So now the shortcut for switching between object mode and edit mode is tab. Okay. If you press tab, you automatically switch between edit and object mode. Just press tab on your keyboard. It switches between object mode and edit mode. All right, so now that we're in edit mode, we want to, how do we change this object to look like a can, or to look like a, how do we change it to look like a drink can? So the answer is something called extrusion. So if we press E, just press E on your keyboard, you can extrude a face, any face at all, escape or Ctrl Z. If we click on this face and press E, we can extrude, E, we can extrude, E, you can extrude, and you can keep extruding as long as you want, and you can make interesting shapes. So if you see any face and you want to like bring it out or extend it, you press E on your keyboard and it's going to extrude. And okay, it's going to extrude. So this is not what we want, so Ctrl Z everything. I just wanted to let you know what extrusion does. So now that you've done, now that you know what that does, so click on this top here, press E to extrude, and move this up here. So now that we've extruded this, it still doesn't look like a can. A can has a curved top. The top is smaller than the bottom, than the middle body, and then it has a straight middle body, and then it curves again at the bottom. So to make this thing smaller, you press S on your keyboard to scale. So you can do this, S to scale, or you can still come here again and use this scale something to scale it instead. But I just prefer S to scale. That's a lot better. So now you can see that it's gradually taking shape. So just scale it a little more. Then if it's a bit too upward or downward, like you don't like, maybe you've extended it, maybe you extended it too far back then, you can just move it around, move it down. You can move any face or any vertex that you want, manipulate it like the way you manipulate objects. You can move any of them. Same with edges as well. You can move, rotate, or scale them. So now that we have that, we're going to go again. Press E again to extrude. First of all, press G, bring this down. Okay, a little bit. Okay, let's go. So E to extrude. But right now, you just press Enter. Press Enter. So now you've extruded it, but it's like on top of the original face that was there, because if you press G, you see that there's an extrusion. Press escape, but it's on top of the face now. So the reason I'm doing that is because I want to press S to scale it out a little bit, scale it out a little bit. I want to create this top corner of the drink. So S, scale it out a little bit, then press E to scale, to extrude again, go up. Okay, it's gradually coming together. Now it looks like a jar. And press E again, scale it down. Yes, scale it down. Okay. Then E again. And this time you just move it down a little bit. All right. And okay, so right now I feel like all right, so this is cool. Let's do the same for the bottom again. So E to extrude, move it down. Press 1 on your keyboard to go to the front view so you can see better. G, grab, move it on the Z axis, move it down. S to scale it in a little bit. G to grab it, move it up a little bit. All right, so E to extrude, just press enter so you can just scale it out without having to move it first. So now S to scale it out. You can notice it's increasing in size. All right, and now E again to extrude it down. So now we have this shape. It's not perfect yet. In fact, a drink is usually okay, so it's not perfect yet. I think we want this top and we want this bottom to change a bit. So right now we're going to go to this wireframe mode. Remember, there are different viewport modes. We're in solid mode, there's material mode, there's render mode, and there is wireframe mode. So wireframe mode allows you to see through the object. So what it does is that right now I can't select behind this shape. If I want to select what is behind this place, I have to go all the way to the back to select it. But if I press 1 to go to the front, if we use wireframe mode, I can see into the object and behind the object. So if I press 1 again, select everything in the bottom and just scale all of them together. And you know what? Press G, Z, move it up. And yeah, so I'm using shortcuts a lot. I don't really use these gizmos that much, but if it's hard for you to follow the shortcuts I'm using, just follow the gizmos as well. There is no one part to learn in Blender. So right now I want to make the drink thinner. So you press A to select everything, and everything is now selected. So you can either scale it. So you can either scale it S on the Z axis to make it longer. Press A, make sure everything's selected. X on Z axis, make it longer a little bit. Okay, then this top, go to Z, press Z, go to wireframe mode, select this top, come down, bring it down a little bit, maybe scale it out a little bit. S, scale it out, and okay, now it looks like a drink. It's A, and S to scale on the Z. S to scale on the Z axis, make it a little bit longer. And yeah, all right, now it's kind of looking like a drink, a little bit better. Z, yeah. Okay. Now it looks like a drink a little bit better. All right. All right. So now let's create the straw in the middle. So we press E to extrude again, enter so that it's on top. The extrusion is just on top of the original face. Now press S to scale down. Again, press E to extrude, allow it to go down on the Z. Press E again to extrude and leave that extruded face on top. And press X again to come in. And now press E on the Z axis, press E again, let it be on top, press S to scale in. And now we can extrude the straw out. So E on the Z axis, press Z to extrude on the Z axis. And now we have this beautiful straw over here. So now if press E again, move it to the, bring it up and bring it to the Y. On the Z-axis, G grab on the Z-axis, on the X-axis, I mean. So move it to the side. And let's press arrow on the Y-axis. No, sorry, we extruded by accident. So press, so, and by the way, if you undo and you want to redo, you press Shift, Control Z to redo. So press arrow to rotate on the Y-axis. Okay, and maybe scale it S to scale on the Z-axis to scale it's in. All right, so now there is something I want to introduce you to. We've showed you how to extrude things, but now if you notice, if we come out, tab to go into object mode, first of all, to make these things smooth, so that you are not seeing the faces that made up the object, you right click and shade smooth or shade auto smooth for now. We can come to shade smooth later. I'll show you why you should shade smooth sometimes. So you would notice that the edges are very sharp. So we don't want the edges to be too sharp. We want them to be a little bit, a little bit smooth. So to do that, what you can do is come to edge and then come to bevel edge. So so the shortcut of that is Control B. So when you click bevel edge, it will create this kind of like a small step somewhat between the edge so that it's not too sharp. So if you rotate your mouse, if you scroll up your mouse wheel, you can increase the number of, sorry, let's try that again, Control B to bevel. Okay, so if you scroll up your mouse wheel, you can increase the number of edge loops. So edge loops is simply the curve around the edges, this curve around here. It's called a loop because it goes round. So so it tells you the number of edge loops. So if you want it to be 3, right now it's 3. If you scroll down, it's just 1. If you scroll up, it's like 2. So the more it is, the smoother it will be. This is what I was saying when I said that the more faces or vertices or polygons that makes up an object, the smoother the object will appear. But that might begin to affect your computer, so you don't need too many objects. So 2 is good. Press click to confirm that. Come to the bottom here. To select this whole edge, or to select this entire edge loop, double click. And once you double click on that, it will select the entire edge loop. Now Control B again to create the bevel, and come over here. This edge is sharp too. Control B to create a bevel. And okay, so do we need a bevel here? Yeah. Okay. So let's come down here as well. Control B again to create another bevel, and down here as well, Control B to create a bevel. So now if we come back to object mode, you see that it looks a lot better than before. So we can even decide to bevel here as well, here and here. So again, double clicking to select all the edge loops, and Control B. Maybe not so much because in a drink that edge is very sharp. So now you have a bevel here. Okay, your drink is looking a lot better. So if you come come to wireframe mode, come to face select over here, and select these guys, and just press G, Z axis, just move it up a little bit, so it looks a bit more balanced as a drink. All right, so we're going to do the same with this straw. Come to edge select, double click on okay, this is another edge loop, but that's not the edge loop we're looking for. We want this one that is going around like this. So double click on this guy and Control B. Sorry. Okay, so it looks like the reason we're running into problems here is because if I press G to grab on the Z axis, you see that we extruded, and so that was what was interrupting our edges that's what was interrupting our bevel. So now that we've grabbed the culprit, Control B again, and now it should balance out. So just double click on this guy and press G, grab him to bring him down. All right, so we've successfully created the straw. Press G, face select this guy. Yes, to scale. All right, so we've made our straw and our fancy our fancy our fancy can. So one more thing to make it a lot smoother, if you want to make any of the objects a lot smoother, although I personally don't try to avoid using it too much because it can increase, what it does is that it increases the number of vertices. Let's come to edit mode. It increases the number of vertices and faces on your object. So what we're about to do is something called a subdivision modifier. So if you come over in this property bar, come to this thing that looks like a toolbar, like a spanner, then click on it, come to add modifier, go to generate and go to subdivision surface. So let's go to object mode, and if we turn this to 1, if we turn this to 0, this is how it looks like without subdivision surface. If we turn this to 1, all of a sudden it has messed up a lot of our stuff, including our straw. What it does is that, let's click here on this show in edit mode. So what it does is that it kind of tries to soften the edges of things, and it's telling us that auto smooth is having issues. So right now, just right click from, instead of auto smooth, click on smooth. So get rid of that error. So now let's get into edit mode now. So it's make things smoother. For example, it's made this, if we go back, this thing just looks very sharp. This place here is where I will show you. This place looks very sharp, but if we press 1, it just smoothens it out like completely. So this is a little bit too much. So if you double click on this to select the face, because when face select, whenever you double click on any face, it's going to do a face loop select. So what we're going to do to make this thing not to be too smooth, you come to edge, you go to edge, and you come to something called edge crease. So when you click on it, you can move your mouse. Okay, so sorry, because we're too far away, the shortcut is Shift E. So when I press Shift E on our keyboard, just move your mouse and you will be able to keep it from looking to funk. So make it a bit sharp so that it maintains the original shape it had. So you can do it that or Control Z to undo the edge creasing. Sorry, let's make this one. All right. Or you can just press Control R to add more edge loops to the edge, because when you add edge loops to the edge, it will make the edge of this object sharper. So if we press Control R on our keyboard here, you can see it's going to add edge loops. Yeah. So if we press Control R, now all of a sudden, this place is sharper now. Press Control R again on this other side. All of a sudden, this corner has become more defined. So if we add another one, it's become even more defined. So try one more here. And try one more at the bottom here. Good. So we've made it way more defined. For now, I think that this one is a bit too sharp. So let us undo that. So now that we have this edge loop selected, if you want to delete this edge loop without automatically deleting your shape, because if you press X on your keyboard to delete and you delete edges, you will mess up your shape. You might not be able to see it now, but you've actually messed up your shape. So double click this, press X, but instead of deleting edges or deleting faces or whatever, come to dissolve edges. So now it's a smoother, cleaner way of dealing with that. So another thing we're going to do is our straw. Press Ctrl R and move that thing up there. And we're going to do something with our straw. We'll select the mouth here, press E to extrude, press S to scale in, and then E to extrude inside of the straw. So just move this a little bit in. Okay, so it looks like an actual straw that has a dimension in it. All right, so we're going to do that exact same thing with these edges here. Ctrl R to, wrong. Ctrl R to add an edge loop here. Make sure it moves down so that it's defined. Another edge loop at the bottom here, Ctrl R. Okay, so we'll do that. So the top now looks very, very smooth and very nice looking. Let's add an edge loop down under the straw here. All right, good. So then the bottom is also too smooth, so add some more edge loops here. Ctrl R to add an edge loop here. Loop cuts, and then Ctrl R to add another one here. And in fact, I know that in some bottles, if you press G, grab this, move up, some bottles kind of allow you to, kind of like the bottom moves up a little bit. So just press S to scale this in and press G, move this guy up. All right, so add some more. I'm gonna add some more edge loops. All right, cool. So we have this ready, and this is our beautiful can that we have made from scratch right now. So we grab this in object mode, G to press 1 to go to the front, G to grab, move it forward up here, and now we can make a quick render out of this and save this file. You can save this file now and go to where your folder is. Call this my first model. Okay, so the next thing I want to show you is how do you make a studio background in in the photo I shared. You'll notice that it has a background, but I don't know if you've seen some product photos where it looks as if the product is on a floor, but there is no, but the floor kind of like has some, it feels as if the floor is infinite somewhat. You can't see an horizon, or you can't see some edges or whatever in the background. You just feel like the floor or the color is just consistent all through. It's not floating in the air, it's on the floor, but the background is seamless. So that studio background is very easy to make in Blender. So to do this, make sure your cursor is in the middle. If by any chance your cursor is outside, press Shift S on your keyboard. When you press Shift S on your keyboard, you should see some options. Make sure you do cursor to world origin. So it tells you where to snap objects. So just ignore all of it. Just go cursor to world origin, and this will move to the middle here. So just a quick tip, not necessary. So now if we come to objects, mesh, add a plane, and go to edit mode. Yeah, press S to scale it out. Scale it even further. All right. So now if we go to make sure we're on edge select this edge over here and press E to extrude it. Press Z to make sure we're extruding on only the Z axis to move it up. And now we can press this edge over here, and guess what we'll do? Some of you might have already guessed it. We're going to bevel this edge. So come to edge here, come to bevel or Ctrl B, and now it's going to make a smooth transition between the top and the bottom here. So come up this way. you can rotate your mouse to add how many bevels you want. So we'll make this a little bit smoother. All right. So once we have that, right click, make sure shade auto smooth, or even just shade smooth. It's the same thing. And selection box. So I'm not selecting thin air. You know what, go back to edit mode, A to select everything, as scale on the y-axis to make it wider. And yeah, now we have an infinite background. So if we add a camera, shift A to add a camera. Where is the camera? Okay, camera is far away. G to grab it, move it somewhere else so I can see it better. G on the x-axis, G on the y-axis, arrow to rotate the camera. Now I'm going to create another window so I can see what the camera is seeing. So come here, drag this out, and T to remove our toolbar here. So T adds toolbar to remove it. Press 0 to come out here. All right, so now press G to grab the camera, move it up. Maybe you want to rotate this guy, arrow to rotate on the axis so that the straw will show better. And now you can move the camera down, arrow to rotate, arrow to rotate the camera on the y-axis. So this is the y-axis, this is the x-axis, this is the z-axis. So on the y-axis, so rotate it to look a little bit up, G, move it down a bit. And yeah, now we have the object set. But if we go into material mode over here, we see that everything is just, if we go to the material mode, let's go into it here. We see that everything is just the same color. So let's give our object a color. First of all, this back material here, come to this material bar to add a material. You can give the background any color you want. Then come to this guy. We're going to add some colors to it. So back to edit mode. Okay, back to edit mode. So we're going to add a color to it, called this maybe body, and give this a color. So if you notice in the original picture, if you just apply a material, it colors everything. But what if you want to apply color to just some specific parts of the mesh? So let's add some new materials here. We're going to call this one new. We're going to call this one the metal. And what the metal will color is this top areas of the object of the can. The can's top areas are made of metal, so, or some sort of aluminum. It's still a metal. So now if you come to front view, want to look to the front, press Z to go to wireframe mode, then come to face select. And now we're going to use something called a selection box. So right now, if we click here, make sure it's on selection box. Now, if we click and drag anywhere, we'll create a selection box that we can use to select multiple objects at once. So again, click and drag everywhere, it creates a selection box. And press C. Then another thing too, if we come here and press selection circle, we create a selection circle. So if we click around, it's going to highlight anything that we selected. So those are some cool ways to select things. But the cool thing about the selection circle over here is that if we use our mouse, the middle mouse button, and click, hold on, go back to press 1 on the keyboard. Okay, sorry. Well, okay, that was weird. That wasn't what I was expecting it to do. Okay, so what I wanted to do didn't work, but what I want you to do is to press C on your computer. It will still bring up the same selection box. So once you press C, press your middle mouse click and it will deselect things. So that's a way of deselecting things in mass. If we didn't do that, if we come Z to go to solid view, to deselect, we have to hold shift and deselect each and every one of these edges that we're not supposed to select. And that's going to take a long time to do that. So by coming to press 1 to go to the front, press Z to wireframe, by pressing C on your keyboard to create this circle selection cursor, you mouse click the middle mouse button, click on it, don't scroll. If you scroll, it will just increase the size or reduce the size. Just click on it and you can deselect things that you don't want to select. You can just click on the middle mouse button and drag to select multiple things at once. So be careful with it and press enter. It will disappear. So now if we press Z back to solid view, we can see that we've selected all these corners, but there are still some corners in here. So press shift, double click on the face to select the faces in that loop. Press shift, double click on the faces again here, shift, double click on faces here again. And yeah, we've selected everything up there. So there are still some missing places over here. Just make sure everything here is selected. Okay. So I think everything is properly selected. So now that I've selected all this, all we need to do to make this thing have the metal color here is to click on the metal color, make sure where we want to apply it is selected, then press assign. So now that we've done that, if I come here and go tab to object view, you see that the metal part has its own color, the bottom part has its own color. So now we can turn this to metallic because it's metal and it looks metallic. You can decide to just leave it as normal, but why would you do that? Make it metallic. Yeah, so now it's metallic. And we'll do the exact same thing for the bottom. Press 1 to go to the bottom part. Press Z, go to wireframe mode, and make sure that this thing is in selection box. Click here, drag around, and 1. You know what? We don't want to go through. We want to go look through. We just want to delete, because the reason why I don't want to look through is that this something at the bottom. Oopsie, we can't see the bottom because this thing is blocking it. So let's tap to object mode, click on this thing, press the eye icon here. This is it here. Just briefly name this our can. Enter. This plane, just hide it. Okay, come back. Now, if we come here, notice that the thing went inside. So we don't want it to just stay inside like that. So we don't want to accidentally select this instead. So press 1, press C to bring up our circle selection box, and click on the middle mouse button to deselect these parts of the edge. To look to the back, you can press Ctrl 1 and it will go to the back view. 1 is front view, Ctrl 1 is back view, or numpad 1 on your keyboard. So remember that. Okay, so now all those corners are deselected, and now assign. So if we come back to object mode here, let's unhide this guy. Yeah, it's now perfectly selected. So now if we select this, we'll add the final material. Just call this one white body. And we're going to add some variety to this object. So press 1, Ctrl arrow to add an edge loop here. Move this edge loop up here. Don't touch it too much. Press Ctrl R, add another edge loop here. Press Ctrl R, add another edge loop here. One more edge loop here. We press enter. So the reason we created those edge loops is so that we can double click to, okay, come to face select here, double click here, select this edge loop, shift, double click here, hold shift, double click here to select these edge loops. And now if we click on this white body and press assign, we've assigned the color to those vertices over there. So now we have this circular pattern around our shape, around our drink object. So now if we right click, go back, select this guy. So that will make him press G, grab, move him up a bit so that they are both of equal size. I felt like they were not of equal size. So, all right, we got that. All right, we got that. So now we have a beautiful drink. Maybe you want to make it, you can make it whatever color you want. It's fine. For the sake of consistency with what I made with the tutorial, I'm just gonna make it purple, blueberry. So the reason this thing isn't looking good is because, again, we've not enabled our EV settings. So the distance here, 2200, as usual, just go crazy with that. Make sure bloom is enabled, make sure screen space reflections is enabled, and increase refraction, trace precision, blah, blah, blah. Just go crazy with this. Fat, make this one 10. Yeah. And cool. Yeah, so crazy how those simple changes can make your work look different. So now this background, yeah, just give it whatever color you want. And now for us to make a quick render out of this, so for us, we're going to make a quick render out of this. And for us to do that, let's go to rendered view over here. Okay, so let's go to rendered view over here and right click on this a little bit. Then right now it's very dark because there is no lights. So Shift A, add the lights, add an area lights, grab it up. It's not bright enough. Add contact shadows, then increase the power here to 100. Let's enable rendered here. So press 0 on our camera so we can see what we're doing. Move this up. Maybe increase this to 1000. So for our camera, so that our camera can see the top of this image, the top of this can. Let's move it up and rotate on the y-axis so it looks down on our object G2. Okay. Okay, so now we have this in. So you know what we're going to do? We're going to click on this, make sure that this body is very reflective. This metal, make sure it's very reflective as well. Make the body reflective as well. Cool. So now that both the body, in fact, make the body a metal somewhat. Okay, maybe that was a little bit too much. Okay. Okay, maybe that was too much. So turn the body back to normal objects. Come back to the settings. So now come to the world settings and make it a bit brighter in the world here. So we've added that first light. Let's bring it forward a bit. So x-axis, bring it forward a bit. Shift D, add another light. This one will be maybe add a little bit more of roughness on these parts. Okay, cool. So I'm getting the effect that I want to get. So if we rotate this, say it on the y-axis. Okay, hold on, I'm going to find a way to tweak this so I get the right amount. So let's just make this 0.5, make this one a little bit of 0.3. Then this guy, this light, let's give him a color, make him yellow. On this background over here, let's give it another color. So let's give it another color. Something closer to the theme of what we're making. So that looks cool. That looks very cool. So we'll add that. Move this guy to maybe make this guy blue, so it's kind of like alternating an alternative to this guy. Let me rotate it. Okay. So most of the decisions and the times you spend on rendering is just trying to figure out what's the best kind of lighting. So this metal, maybe you don't want it to be too rough. Increase it a bit to like 0.2. That way it's actually looks okay. Then the body, let's see if we should make it darker, lighter. All right. Okay, so this is a cool render. So one thing that you want to, this is a cool render right now. And right now you can Control S to save. And if we press render image, it should look good. All right, so I just remembered why it's not clicking for us, or why it wasn't looking super good. That's because if it comes to color management, we've not set look to very high contrast. Yeah, so now the color is popping. So yeah, always remember to set this to very high contrast. I'll show you how to fix this very soon, so you don't have to do this every time. I'll show you that in some other video. But yeah, that was why we were having issues with the colors. So that is what you need to do. And now if we come back again, come back to save, and we press render image, we have this very cool render. If we come here, click, yeah, so we have this very cool render over here. So we come to image, save, and save it as my first model. And save that. So you have this cute render over here. And if we switch to cycles, make sure this is GPU compute, make sure this is 0.1, reduce this to like 1000 frames. Sometimes I will personally use 100. For preview viewports, 100 frames is okay. And okay, so if we go go to rendered to see how it looks in cycles, it looks a lot better in cycles. Not very that much different, but definitely better. Cycles, actually, when it comes to anything that has to do with reflections, cycles is way better. So yeah, that is cool. So now if we save and render another image again, this time in cycles, you have a cute render. All right, so we've just finished rendering with cycles. It looks way more better, I know. You can now save this as my first model and type cycles over here. Press save image. And now you have your beautiful render with you. And that's it for the first part of our modeling workshop in the 3D animation course. In the next part of this lesson, we're going to be animating this model that you have created in Blender. So be sure to check it out. For this, like and subscribe, share, and if you have any questions about this lesson, be sure to leave it in the comment section, and I'll be sure to attend to them. Thank you.
Enjoy all these premium courses in this channel for free.